Good morning, everyone. My name is Amrita Bhatti, and first of all, I want to thank you all for taking out time to attend to this meeting. Today, we have with us Nick Grafton from STIRS, and he will be covering the new STIRS system in depth. Nick, thank you so much for being here. The agenda for today's meeting, it's going to be, going over the STIRS timeline, the Employer Support Portal, Employer Learning Center, Employer Readiness Environment, testing requirements, and a Q&A session. Please feel free to ask questions along the way as well. Before I pass it over to Nick, I want to quickly go over the timeline for our county. Here you'll see starting from 6/18, starting tomorrow, up until 7/31, end of July, for payroll staff. The requirement is to become familiar with uploading the partial contribution test file in the new SEW system and making sure that you're able to get a valid errors-free list. And for HR staff, the requirement from now, starting tomorrow until 7/31, is to become familiar with how to submit a defined benefit member and non-member enrollment transactions. In August, we will receive the current SEW users list from CalSTRS, and districts will have to determine who should be added, who should be removed from that list, and you will also have to assign a role for each user. So it could be either payroll or enrollment, or it could be both. So we will be sending that list forward once we receive it from STIRS, and that'll happen about second week of August. On September 5th, the cutover will begin, and the current SEW that we're using right now will become read-only. On September 25th, the new SEW will go live. And without much further ado, let's hear from Nick now.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And thanks for having me today. Let me go ahead and I'll just share my screen here.
We can't hear anything. What do I do?
Okay. Some of you have probably, yeah, I'm sharing my screen. A lot of you have probably seen this webpage here, but I want to go over a couple things on here. And if some of you joined the district webinar that we had, I think about a month ago now, some of this will be familiar, but it'll definitely give you an opportunity to ask questions. So please, along the way, if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. You don't need to wait until the end. If it's fresh in your mind, just go ahead and ask the question. But right here, this is the employer support portal. And this contains all your testing resources. Okay. So I want to go over some of those. The first up here, this link, the Employer Learning Center. This houses all the computer-based training modules that we've developed. So if there's a process that you do, so if you do an enrollment, if you upload files, or submit the express benefit report, and this contains the modules that will walk you through how to do that. I'll go ahead and just log in. It's self-registration, so anybody can log in. It's pretty straightforward. How you'll set yourself up. I'm already set up, so I'll just log in. But when you log in, there's a list of categories up here, and you'll go to like the new SEW training. And then when you go in there, you can go through the various modules, the contribution reporting. So if you upload files, you go into contribution reporting, and that will contain all of the training modules about how to upload a file, how to, validate business rules. And then it has videos and it has links to job aids as well. So I encourage folks to register here if there are things that you do in SEW today and you want to know how you'll do them in the new system. I'm going to walk through I'll demo most of the stuff today, but I just want to let you guys know that we do have the training modules out here. They're all computer-based training modules. Over here on the right is that testing environment where we're going to spend the bulk of the morning in there, and we'll do various tasks, but that's where you'll do your testing. The idea is, you guys are doing enrollments today and you're uploading files, and, you're making sure those files are clean so the county could submit the file to CalSTRS. And you'll need to know how to do that in the new system before we go live, right? And so that's the whole idea of getting some testing under your belt. And we'll talk about exactly what that is, and then I'll go through kind of what that looks like. We'll do that in a little bit over here. Everybody should have access to this environment. I know I set up a bunch of folks, the county set up some folks, so you should have access. Hopefully you have access. If you don't, I think the best way to handle it would be after the meeting. You can email me. I could either get you set up or reset your password. See, the thing is, like when I set folks up, you only have 24 hours or that password expires. So that probably happened to some folks. Um, reach out to me. I will reset your password and then you'll get a new one-time password email. Okay. Now, we have this message board here. And so the idea is by July 31st, right? You'll upload a partial file. You'll get comfortable with the process. You'll submit some enrollments, but you want to be sure that you're uploading the correct file. Okay, so this testing environment here it has real data as of a date in time. Okay, and currently that date is March 14th.
Yes,
So
hold on.
what you're going to want to upload is the first file that was submitted after that date. Okay. So I think right now we're working with the March file, but we have a refresh coming up at the beginning of July that will change that date. I'll communicate out what file that will be that you guys will need to upload if you're uploading files after July 3rd. But until July 3rd, you'll use the March file. Um, so anyway, we put important messages here in the message board. Um, you know, Usually at the top is the snapshot date. Okay, tools and resources. I'll start here just with the job aids. I talked about the computer-based training modules. Within those modules, there are links to job aids. However, in this job aid section here, all of these are the job aids for the corresponding training modules here. So for example, contribution file, business rule validation. There's a training module for that, but this is the actual job aid. And so if I pulled it up, right, um, it's going to show you exactly how to validate the business rules. Where do you go? And what do you click? And then it goes through the whole process. These are pretty detailed job aids. So those are here. So if you just wanted to, didn't want to do the module, you wanted to just have a job aid handy, those are available here. And it's pretty much every single process that you would do. There's enrollments, there are uploading contribution files, submitting the express benefit report information, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so those are the job aids. Now here in the toolkit, though, we have a couple resources I want to go over here. These are, a lot of these are technical documents, but there are a couple that I want to point out. Okay. The first one is this employer-related form crosswalk. This contains a list of basically all the forms that you may be submitting to CalSTRS today, and it will, list the form here on the left. It will, the current process is usually either submit it via mail, fax, or email, or secure message. But the right-hand column has what is the new process? And it could be status quo, it could be the same thing, right? But it could be like the express benefit report, for example, where that form's being retired, right? So you can't send the form in. It will tell you how do you submit that information to CalSTRS here on the right. And this, it'll contain a job aid to how you're going to submit the termination and the sick leave information. And that information's here on the right. The two I like to call out here for sure are the Express Benefit Report and the Reduced Workload Program. So if you do offer RWP in your district, that form is going away, and you will actually complete like a wizard within the portal. It's basically the form, but you're just submitting it electronically. I'll walk through that today as well. But those are the two that I like to point out. There are others that you may be submitting to CalSTRS. So this is a good reference, to kind of go over now, but once we go live to say, oh, here's that form, like, what do I do? And this will tell you on the right-hand column what it is that you have to do. A lot of these you can continue submitting the same way, but some of them there are different. Okay, so that is here in the toolkit. That's the employer related form crosswalk. There's another resource here that I want to pull up, and this one is the crosswalk. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay. It's right here at the bottom. This is a new one, so I didn't know exactly where it was at. But it's SEW responsibilities for report units. Okay, so this document here, it goes over what are the required tasks for all report units. Okay. And that's a list of right here. Okay. So like submitting the termination, submitting sick leave information, the stuff on the express benefit report, districts are sending those to CalSTRS now. They're the ones that have that information, right? So that's, an example of the responsibilities for a report unit. There's also these employee change requests. Here's a list of the change requests here. Some of them maybe your district doesn't offer, right? But like reduced workload program would be one of them, or the 1 year final compensation. So we're calling these employee change requests, but these are initiated by districts today. And so, these are responsibilities for report units. So if these are some of the things that your district offers, these will be links to, job aids and computer-based training modules on how to submit that information. Um, Yeah. And like these are just employer reporting requests right here. So these are all tests for all report units. There's another section on this document which is as required by the report source. So we have, county offices throughout the state of California that there are certain tasks that they, have their districts handle, right? And so that is going to depend on the report source, right? A lot of these in Santa Clara County do apply to the report units. Okay, so these would be things like submitting enrollments, right? So if you're a district that submits enrollments, that these are going to contain those computer-based training module and job aid links. So it's a list of things that that the districts would do. Mainly here would be submitting enrollments, submitting or uploading a partial file and things like that. How do you you know, how do you get your file clean? How do you submit an enrollment? So this is a handy document as well. So I wanted to point this one out. Now, while I'm here and we're talking about enrollments, a lot of you are probably already aware of this, but I just want to make sure that it's clear that the way that enrollments work in the new system, like the concept of enrollments, is different than it is today. So, for example, if I work at District A and I'm a CalSTRS member, and then I go work at District B, in today's world, they do, District B doesn't have to enroll me. They look me up, they say, oh, he's a CalSTRS member. I could just go ahead and report for this person. In the new system, every district that I work for example, has to have an enrollment. So if I work at District A, I'm already a CalSTRS member. I go work at District B, you know, you're going to have to enroll me in District B if that enrollment doesn't already exist. So I just want you guys to think about that. And the volume of enrollments is obviously going to increase, right? Because in today's world, you don't have to do an enrollment. And in the new system, you will. So you're going to want to keep that in mind. Um, you know, every district might handle it differently, right? I'll show you two different ways today. But if, for example, let's say I work in HR and we hire a new person, like I look them up, I inquire on that member, I see if there's a CalSTRS member in today's world, right? And I see that they're a CalSTRS member, I do nothing. In the new system, you may want to inquire, say, are they a CalSTRS member? Let me see if they have an enrollment record for my district. Yes, they do. Okay, I'm good. Or no, they don't. Let me do the enrollment right now and enroll that member, right? That's one way to handle it. The other way is if you upload a file, like your first test file, for example, maybe for the month of March, and you'll get the error saying, "Hey, there's no enrollment record for this member," and you can enroll them sort of through the file. I'll show you both ways today, but that's something to keep in mind that you can kind of handle it whichever way works best for your district. Um, It might
Excuse me.
it might vary. Yeah.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Nick.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
question,
Sure.
so we have to provide an enrollment for our own district, but so from the current is that going to convert and they're going to set up those enrollments under each respective district, or are we going to be required at that point to enroll everybody under
Yeah,
our district?
yeah, great question. Okay, so the way that we're going to handle that is uh, so cutovers on September 5th. Okay, that's when current SCW goes to inquiry only. Any posted payroll detail record up until that date, we will create open-ended enrollments for those districts. So when a record comes in, it has the report unit number on it. So that's how we're going to do that. So whatever the oldest pay period begin date is for that report unit, we'll create those records. But going forward is when you'll have to start doing those enrollments.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Um, yeah, so this document here. Okay, what I want to also pull up here is I told you about that webinar we had, the district webinar. That was in April. No, I was wrong. It's about 2 months ago now. But we posted this. I don't know. Some of you may have been there, but I want to go over the report. The schedule is why I pulled this up. But we do have like a ton of Q&As here. We had a bunch of questions from that. So if you, I would encourage you guys if you have the time, maybe to just skim through this or at least have this handy and then maybe you can do a control F for maybe your question is in here. But a ton of questions were asked and so we provided, I mean, you can see it's a lot of Q&As here. But I pulled up this document because I want to actually talk about the project schedule here. And I know in the intro it was discussed a little bit, but this is the just kind of a visual for you guys, but the testing and success criteria completion, that's up until July 31st. And I'll pull up that success criteria document so you can kind of see a visual of that as well. But that's what's going on right now. And um, that user conversion list is around August 10th. Hopefully you'll have that in your hands. We will map the roles as we feel they fit, because the new roles are a little bit different. So we'll take the whatever your existing permissions are in production SEW today. Our team's going to map those, but it'll give you an opportunity to make changes if you want. And then we'll convert however the changes are made. That's how we'll convert the users. And then, yeah, cutovers on September 5th. New SEW goes live on September 25th. The link you use to access SEW, it will be the same link. Okay, so you're not going to have to use a new link or anything like that. It's just on the 25th, or we'll flip a switch basically, and it's going to divert you to the new portal, is how that'll work. So that's kind of a high level overview of the schedule. I know it was discussed at the beginning, but this can all be found here in the webinar. April webinar. Okay, and this also has I think I mentioned it, but also has a link we posted it on YouTube, the actual webinar that we held. So if you wanted to like view that, or you had someone in your office that maybe it wasn't there and want to view it, you can click that link. It'll take you right there. The last document I want to pull up before we'll head into this testing environment here is the success criteria and testing guide.
Are you warming it at the
So this is the reason why I'm pulling this up is it's number 2 here, the success criteria 2. This is the main piece. This is doing everything, that needs to be done within the county to submit all the member data for the whole county, right? And in Santa Clara County, partial file uploaders must upload an F496 file. To get familiar with how do you upload a file? How do I validate the business rules? There's an all errors report, processing enrollments. These are all the kind of things that um, each of the districts will likely have to do in order to get their file clean so the county could submit the file to CalSTRS, right? And so we just want to make sure that everybody is confident that they can do that when we go live in September. That's the whole point of the testing. And this is the main one here that we'll go over today. There is the strongly recommended. These are like the sick leave information, the terminations, the express benefit report type stuff. And I will go over that today as well. That those are the two main things that districts are doing today that they'll need to do in the new system. At least the most important to get the member data to CalSTRS, right? So that's what we're gonna go over today. Okay, so that was quite a lot. I'm going to go into the testing environment, but before I do, does anyone have any questions about anything that I've gone over up until this point? And I'll take silence as a no. All right, great. So the testing environment here, you'll just click this link. And when you log into the new portal, your user ID will always be your email address. Okay. It's different than today, right? So it's always going to be your email address. And then, click login. When you set yourself up, you're going to select an image and you're going to add a phrase. There's security questions that you'll answer. And so it's super easy to get yourself set up. It takes like a minute or two, but when I see my image and phrase, I know I entered my right email address, right? That's the whole reason why you do that, I guess. And then just click continue once you've um, typed your password in. Now I have a bunch of like drop downs here. You'll likely only have your district. It might just take you straight to the dashboard, but these are all the folks I work with. But I'm just going to log in as the county right now, and I'll click continue. Do we have questions here? Let's see. I'm just reviewing. It looks like there's some stuff in the chat here. Are the job aids geared more for what the COE does? Oh, okay. Well, let me start at the. Okay. Somebody had asked, are the job aids geared more toward what the COE does rather than us at the school level? Not necessarily. Like the job aids for uploading files and processing enrollments, those are the same for a district or for a county because the enrollment process is exactly the same. Uploading the file, everything is the same except you're not clicking the submit to CalSTRS button. But as far as the whole process, it's the same for most everything. So if it's something you do, that job aid is not going to be tailored just for the COE. It'll actually apply to you as well. Um, and it looks like that was already answered. Okay, it looks like a lot of this stuff was already answered, so thanks. I'll just leave it as is. I just saw the alert, so looks like the COE is handling those questions, so thank you. Okay, so when you log in, you're going to land here on the dashboard. And this is basically what it will look like when we go live. There are some things that are not functional here in the testing environment. For example, in the testing environment, workflow is not enabled, okay? And workflow, when I mean workflow, is like we have a workflow, for example, where if a teacher submits, let's say, a retirement application to CalSTRS, and we process that retirement application. Um, Once we accept that retirement application, the district's going to get a pending work item down here, which will alert you that we've already basically created the termination and the sick leave transaction type. And there's be a link here where you'll click that and it'll take you straight to the screen where you'll submit the data. So it's actually a little bit easier than doing it from scratch. But that's a type of workflow that's not actually enabled in the testing environment. So I'm not going to, no, I can't mute them. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
going to go through the,
Excuse me, Nick.
yeah,
Everybody who has their audio on needs to mute because
Wow.
it's disrupting us.
Okay, wow.
So I'll show you before I start. It looks long.
Okay, thank you.
Nia, are you able to do like a mass mute on everybody?
okay.
I will try it now.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, I appreciate that. So
I'm
we
sorry.
have, yeah, that workflow is not enabled, but I'll still walk you through the process of a termination and a sick leave information transaction type. It's just that in reality, you could get a pending work item down here where it'll just have a link that'll take you straight to the transaction once that retirement application's on file. But mostly everything else is functional. This is how it'll look when we go live. And what we see here are just quick links here. These are all links, these tiles, and these are like the most commonly used, take you to the most commonly used pages, right? So for example, if you want to inquire on a member, you'll go to the employee profile, and this will take you to a search screen where there's all of this search criteria. You could put in a client ID, SSN, you could put in a name, any of the criteria here, and you could search um, based on that. And a lot of times you might do this, right? If you get a new hire and you want to inquire on the member and see if they have an enrollment record in your district, you would come here. This is probably the first place you'd go to search on a member. You could also here the employment is where you would go ahead and do an actual transaction. So you would select whatever transaction type you want to do here. So for example, for the enrollments, if you're doing enrollments today, these number 1181, these are probably O2 are probably the main ones you're using today. Those aren't changing. The rest of these transaction types are new, right? Well, like termination and sick leave are the main two that you would utilize. These are part of the new file format that we're ultimately going to move towards, but you can key these in on screen even now. So we have termination, sick leave, which we'll go over today, and then uploading a file. If you upload files, you click here, and this is pretty similar to what you see today as far as you'll select F496. But the pay period, this is a little bit different. Normally today, you'll probably, whatever the next month is, month 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are like 12. Maybe it's a supplemental, whatever it is, the partial that you're uploading. In the new system here, it's pay periods. So these will always display as whatever the current month is. So we're in June. That's why we see June here. And then you'll see the 3 prior months. But the main thing to keep in mind here is whatever records within that file you consider current month. So for example, if your March pay periods are current month, you would use the March pay period here. And you would, you could still have records from 2 years ago. It doesn't really matter. You'll basically consider this the month 9, I guess, right? The monthly 9. But whatever the current month lines are, you'll use that pay period here. Okay. And then once you do upload a file, well, we'll go through the file upload process, how it processes, because it's different than today. You upload a file, and then, on that active files tab, you see it go through integrity checks. It goes through processing business rules, and then usually goes into correction required. And then you can look at the business rules and validate them that way. This system works a little bit differently. It actually processes the file in 2 separate areas. So we'll walk through what that looks like. Okay. So let's do some transactions. So the first thing, I'll do an enrollment like how you would just normally do an enrollment. Let's just say, I'll just type in some random SSN and I'll click search. And there's nothing there. So this is a new hire. This is their SSN. So I'm like, oh, they're not in the CalSTRS system, let's say. Then that's when you do the enrollment. You could do the enrollment right now if you wanted. So you just go to employment.
I'm sorry, Nick. Are you displaying your screen? Because we're not seeing anything.
Oh, you're not seeing anything?
No,
Oh, share screen.
I can see it.
Share
I don't
screen.
see anything.
I can see it too.
I can see it
I
too.
can see it.
I can see it.
Okay. Uh-oh.
I can see it.
Let me log out and log back in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. And I'll just go ahead and hold on for a quick second. But
Okay, that's okay. You can go ahead. I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
so when we inquire, yeah, so right here, I click search. So this person doesn't exist, right? So what I would want to do is go to the employment panel here. This would be a quick link to take me to where I can do the enrollment. Like I said, these are quick links, so there are other ways to get there. You could go to the global navigation menus, what we're calling this, and I could go to employee and I can go into employment detail. And actually, if you use a job aid, it's going to show you how to go this way, as opposed to the quick link. But the quick link's just the easiest thing to do. Now, what you'll want to put here is what is the transaction type. So I'm going to just enroll this person, let's say with an 81. This is the permissive election. You'll select the benefit program as defined benefit. And then I'm going to select a report unit. I'm just going to do a random report unit. This is a testing environment, keep in mind. So you can't break anything or mess anything up. You could, kind of do whatever you want. You're not going to ruin anything. But this is what you'll want to select, is the transaction type, benefit program, and the org. Now I'm going to click new. I think it's going to ask me that I need the SSN. Well, it didn't. I thought it would, but when you do the enrollment, these are going to be, what do we use to enroll a retiree oh, that's a great question. Okay, that's a great question. Tiffany, so for a retired member, okay, so getting ahead a couple years, when we go to new file format, we actually have an enrollment for that where you will need to submit an enrollment for working after retirement. But right now, the way that that's going to work, let's say that they're performing post-retirement work right now. We're going to convert those. They're basically non-member enrollments, but they'll have like a new benefit program for being retired. And I'll pull one up later today so you'll see visually what it looks like. But if it's a brand new post-retirement record, first time they've done post-retirement, you actually don't need to submit an enrollment. What's going to happen is you are going to upload that line as a non-member line, and when it gets posted, it'll automatically create the post-retirement benefit program. So you actually won't need to do the enrollment. If they're retired, first line reported, if it's a non-member line, assignment code 61, that you just submit the line and it'll create the enrollment. Okay. So here is pretty much the same. I know it looks different, but if you're doing an enrollment in REAP, this probably looks pretty familiar where you'll just, it's SSN, confirm SSN, date of birth. Let's just make up a date. I'm just this is a test account. I'll name it as such. And then you select a gender. We did add non-binary here, so you have that option now as well. And then the employment start date, I'm just going to select March 1st. Okay. Now, so that's all the information you have to provide is what I put here. And then you'll click save, and what's going to happen is, oh, date of birth. I didn't put date of birth. I thought I did. Maybe I just didn't select a date. You'll select save here, and it's just going to validate the business rules. Make sure that everything's okay and it didn't violate any business rules. If it did, it'll show you down here what the error is. It might display up here at the top too. It depends. Like for example, if I don't do confirm SSN, that shows up here, but other business rules display down here. But once you save, it'll have the submit button if everything's good. And then you'll just click submit. And then what happens is it creates the enrollment. So we should see for Berryessa Union, there's an enrollment record now as of 3/1/25. So anything that's posted after that date for Berryessa Union Elementary, everything will be good to go. So since you have that enrollment, you'll be good for that district. The client ID is created right here. You could click on that. It'll take you into the actual account. And here's the benefit program it created. Now I could look at transactions if there are any transactions. We see down here it's the enrollment record. So this is kind of taking you into the account. Now, let me show you, let's say let's say this person here goes and works at another district now. And so I'm a different district now, and I'm inquiring on this member, and I'm like, oh, here they are. Okay, so they do exist in the CalSTRS system. And I pull them up and I'm looking and I see, oh, okay, well, this isn't my district. So I need to do an enrollment. So what I would do is the same thing, but it'll look a little different. So that's why I want to actually show you this right now. Let's say it's a different district. So it's going to be this one. Um, I believe here I will have to put the client ID. So if I click new, once again, it has the benefit program transaction type and then the org code. Okay, that's what you need to put here. But if I click no, I think it's going to ask me. Oh, it didn't. It did not ask me for that. It might be beneficial to actually do that though, because um, if I put the client ID in here and click new, it's going to pull in all the information that's already in the system. So you might want to do that. It's up to you. You could do it from scratch also, but the thing is, if they already exist in the system and you need to do an enrollment, the only thing you're really doing is selecting what the transaction type is for the enrollment and then populating the employment start date because it's pulling everything else in because they're already existing, right? So then you could just select the employment start date, and we've already selected the transaction type when we initiated the enrollment. So you can just do that, and then once again, it's save, and then you're going to submit. So same idea. It's a little bit easier when they already exist though, because I didn't have to key anything in really. And then you can see down here now we have another enrollment. So they worked at this district as a 4-1. Okay, so now let's
So Nick, real quick question. So if
yeah.
you have a sub who's working in multiple districts and let's say their address changed and we only changed it in ours under like District 90 for us, it doesn't change that record for everybody then, right?
Yeah, it does. So
Oh,
like
it does.
yeah, let's pull up, let's just inquire on this member. Click search, they're already there. So here they are, right? This will take you into the details. Now there is no address, but the address is tied to the actual employee maintenance, so the employee account. So yeah, if you update the address, it's going to update the address for that member.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So here's the demographic information. You can actually change this, right? If you needed to change the last name, you can. Anything here you could change, any of the editable fields. You could change right here in the demographic panel. Now, the address isn't required, okay? But yeah, you could add a new address or you could add the address while you're enrolling them if you wanted to. And then if an address exists, then you can like add a new one if you wanted to.
I went to my own.
So here's the benefit program that was created. If I go into here, yeah, I could see the membership account. Like these are both members, but for example, for Berryessa, let's say, or either of these two, there could technically be two enrollments here. If they were a non-member, it would have that record and kind of when that ended and when the enrollment or when the member began. So you could see two enrollment records for a particular district here in the membership employment tab. And that's within the benefit program.
It doesn't
But
work.
right here, you'll actually, let me refresh this. Well, here you'll generally only see you will only see one for each district. Right now, we're not seeing the other one, but within the benefit program is the ideal place to go get the details for the enrollment. You can see they're permissively elected, yes, because we use the 81 to enroll them. So it'll tell you like if they're permissively elected. Here's some of the details here. If they're working after retirement, this will say yes. This will indicate that they're they're performing post-retirement work. And I'll pull one of those up later. Hopefully we could find one where they're actually performing post-retirement work. But here's just some details about the member. Now you could click this transaction tab here. It'll take you to the screen where you could I don't think there's anything. We just enrolled this member, so there are no transactions, but you can filter here to search for any sort of transactions. They would display here. You can export to Excel. Mostly everything in the system is like export to Excel, but we'll find an account that has transactions so we can see what that looks like also. Let's see, I think there was a question here. Are districts able to change addresses now, like in SEW? No, not in production SEW, they cannot. If another district enrolls an employee as a member effective 4/15, but I need to add the member as a non-member effective 3/15 at my district, will it let me if the other district has already added their member transaction? Yeah, so and I'm getting ahead, just looking ahead into the new file format in 2 years from now, you'll be able to self-serve on every single type of enrollment date. Because you could just close an enrollment, open an error, and then redo it however it needs to be done. Until then, though, there are certain scenarios where you will be able to, like, let's say you entered it for 4/15, but now you need to enter something for 3/15. There are scenarios that will work and our system will take it, but there are others where it won't. Most of the time when it won't is when it's like different member types, right? So it's the non-member member scenario. So this scenario, Tiffany, that you have right here, I would encourage you to test it if you wanted to, but I don't think that this one would. I don't think this would work. I think you'd probably have to reach out to CalSTRS on this one. Now, let's say that you had a 4/15 member date at one district, and then here you come along and it's like, no, I have a 3/15 member date. You would probably have no problem doing your enrollment for 3/15, even though the 4/15 enrollment has already been submitted, because the member type's the same. It's member and member. Um, but it's really kind of hard because it's hit and miss on when the scenario works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Nick, there's another question in the chat from Jerry. If the providers that report for several schools, are they going to have a drop-down list
Yes, they will.
like you have? Okay.
Yeah. So if you saw how I have, sorry. If you saw how I had, I had a ton. Yeah, a lot of charters, right? They report for many different districts. So you will have one login, which will be your email address, but you'll be set up for all those charters. So you could just toggle back and forth like I'll do right now. I'm going to toggle out and then you'll just select whatever the other charter is, right? So yeah, you'll be able to toggle back and forth. You'll have these drop downs for everyone that you report for. Yeah. And then you can just toggle back like that, but it'll be one sign in. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, we did the enrollments. We kind of looked at, and we'll look at another member that has transactions after I upload a file. We'll see, because I submitted some dummy data where we can actually go and look at records that have been reported, and we'll export to Excel and things like that. But what I want to do though is I want to submit, I'm going to submit I want to submit a termination, and I want to submit sick leave information. So when you get, when a member retires, whoever's submitting these forms today will just need to go in here and do them electronically. And that's kind of what I want to demo right now. But I'm going to do this from scratch, and I'll actually just terminate this. Well, I forgot who it was. Oh, you know what? Okay, here's another thing. So we just created the member, and I totally forgot what the client ID or SSN was, right? You could go to employee right here. And if you go to employee detail, this is where we actually created the enrollment. We clicked new. This is also a search screen. So you can search for transactions you've submitted. So, for example, right here, I just submitted these two. So this is also a search screen. So if you've submitted transactions and you wanted to like, oh, what was that? Did I submit a transaction for that person? You could search here and you could see, oh yeah, they're right here. So I'm actually just gonna double click this client ID. So now I have the client ID and I can do what I need to do. Um, so I'm going to submit a sick leave transaction type, but I do want to pull up the job aid real quick, just so you can kind of see visually what it may look like with that pending work item that I was talking about. Um, so there's this submitting termination and sick leave job aid. And if I open this up, it's going to always opens in the middle, but this is that pending work item here. So it'll have the transaction type already created, and you just click the link. You could even see down here where um, this is just the transaction type that was created, and you could see that it was the source, it was CalSTRS prompted. So this was a retirement application that came into CalSTRS. We processed it. It's an accepted status. And now the district gets this pending work item where we have created the transaction type, where when you click that hyperlink, it will take you to the actual transaction here. And then you'll just click that termination hyperlink and it'll just, you just fill in the information from the next screen. That's kind of how that pending work item will look like when we go live. But what I'll do right now is actually the from scratch, because you can also do it that way if you wanted to. And you'll just select termination. So when you're submitting the information on the express benefit reports, generally the termination and then the sick leave information, but you're going to have to do the termination first. So that's why the job aid show the termination and then I'll show the sick leave. So I'll do the termination. And I forgot what org it was. I think it was 007. Oh, you know what? Four three 008. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to think here real quick.
It's
Yeah.
43107 for Berryessa, right?
Oh, was it 43107? Okay.
107.
That was my problem. Let me reset this here. Termination. Okay. 43107. Oh, there it is. Which would be this one right here. Okay. Okay, and then plug in the client ID here. Okay, so termination, put your org code there and then click new. And so this will pull up this is the employment detail maintenance screen. So whether you're doing an enrollment or you're doing a termination or a sick leave, it's the same screen, but some of the panels change. Well, mainly it's just this panel changes down here. Of course, they already exist, so you don't need to enter anything here. You've already entered the transaction type as termination. You'll just come down here to the detail of what it is that you're doing. And so we're going to select your employment record here, and then we'll put in a termination date. And I'm just going to put in, let's put in March 1st. Let's just say I opened it in error. Okay, let's just say they retired actually. So I'm going to put in a termination date of say 6/30. Let's say they retired at the end of the fiscal year or something like that. And this last day of work, right? Last comp date. These are all I don't know if it'll let me do this. Oh yeah, I could do this. This is termination date, last day of work, last comp date. This is the same information that you're submitting on the express benefit report. So whatever the information is you're submitting there, you're just going to put it in here. And then I'm going to click save. And you have to check these boxes. These are new, actually. When I first demoed this in the district webinar, I don't think that these were added. So this was new. But you're just going to certify that it's correct and all that. And then you click save. And then once again, it runs through business rules. And then if everything's good, you'll get the submit button. And we got the submit button, so I'm just going to submit it. And then that is it. We have terminated this transaction. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is you could actually then just select sick leave and click new. Everything's already there, so it's probably easier to do it that way. And then just click new, and then everything's pulled in, sick leave, and then you'd come down here and you would select, and then you type in whatever your full-time base days are, termination effective date. Do you have any unused sick leave? And um, you maybe have 20 days, for example. And then you would click save. Now I will get an error here. That's okay. I'm gonna get an error, and at least you'll see what the error looks like. Um, or I'm not even getting an error. That it's not allowing it. So what's going on here is you could submit a termination no matter what, right? Anytime you want. Sick leave information cannot be submitted until the retirement application's on file. And that's the workflow thing that I was talking about. We don't have workflow enabled. So I'm not able to like simulate a retirement application in accepted status to actually submit the sick leave, but it would be the save and then submit. It would be the same thing. We've done everything we need to do. All we can't do today is hit submit. So that that's why we're not able to do this right now. But that's how that would work. Um, so let's pull up this member that we've done quite a few things with. I'll just search by SS or by client ID. And if I pull up the client ID, we could see that like here we have the end date now. You see there's more information here now, right? We're seeing more information because this district has submitted the termination, right? Um, you know, Also, if I come in here, membership employment, we'll see the same information. Now, when a member does retire, every single district that they have an enrollment for does not have to do a termination. Okay, only one district would have to do the termination. Multiple can do the termination, right? But only one is required to do that termination. Once the retirement application is completely processed, this whole benefit program here will go into retired status. And because of that, every underlying enrollment record is essentially closed. So you don't have to individually do the terminations. Okay, what happens when you terminate an employee, but then they come back? Yeah, so you can terminate an employee anytime you want, right? It's really we're not requiring termination, so you could just keep it open if you wanted. But let's say you did terminate an employee, and then they came back, you would just have to do another enrollment to kind of create a new enrollment for that person. And currently, our schools send in the completed form with the new system. With the new system, would they complete enrollments within the system instead of emailing and mailing the forms? Yes, you would. Oh, wait a second. Let me clarify this. So when you say you send in the forms, are you talking about the permissive election form or the ES 372? You're still going to need to send those in. You'll do the enrollment in the system, but you do still need to send those forms in. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Danielle asks, currently right now, sick leave has to be transferred to the final district and then reported with retirement. Can each district report their own sick leave with the new process? Does it need to be transferred? Yeah, so the whatever process you do today, they're being transferred. You're going to want to continue doing the same process as you do today. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, the this is it's I mean, I say it's pretty straightforward because I've done it several times, but um it's different. It's going to take a little getting used to. I feel like once you guys get your hands on, you do a little testing with this, you should have no problems, but I encourage you to definitely reach out if you do. Um, but I'm going to move away from enrollments and the transaction types within the employment tab here. But before I do, I just want to see if there are any other questions before I move on. All right. And you guys could have go backs, right? We have Q&A at the end, so no problem there. Okay, great. So let me go to this global navigation menu and just talk about, well, the ES372 and the ES350, I think it is. Those were referenced earlier when you send those forms in. However you send those forms in today, I think they're on the forms crosswalk, but if you're sending those via secure message, you could still do that. You could send them via secure message. We do have this ECM, it's the electronic content management, where you could upload a document where it could be a member document and you could put in the client ID. You could select the document type here. There are a ton of document types, whatever the appropriate one is, and choose the file and upload it that way. You could do it that way if you wanted, but that's one at a time for each individual member. That's an option for you. You could also, some districts might just send a bunch of them in at one time, right? And if that's the case, you might just want to send via secure message. And you could do that as well, where you could, down here, secure message, you could send it that way. I think one of the nice things about secure message today as compared to, or in the new system as compared to today, is that you can attach multiple documents. I don't believe you can do that in current SEW, and there's no like file size restriction either. So it'll be a lot easier, I think, to send multiple documents via secure message. So you may want to do it that way. Now, in the global navigation menu here, before we move over to uploading files, I want to talk about those employee change requests. So that's under employee here, and that's under employee change request. And that is where we have the like reduce workload program. So that's the one that is probably used most of the time, but there are other ones, right? There's the 1 year final compensation, service retirement earnings, limit exception. There are various other, employee change requests. There are also program enrollment requests, right? So this might be like your retirement incentive if you provide that 2 year service credit retirement incentive. Some districts do, some districts don't. But if you do, you'd initiate that online as well. So that's kind of where those are. It's employee change requests. The like reduce workload let's see if I can do this with the person I just set up. You would select let's just try this right now. You could see it's pretty much the same stuff that you're filling out on the form today. It's like, I think I didn't terminate that one, but it's pretty much the same thing that you're doing today, just filling the information out online. And let's say the academic beginning year is July 1st. So I don't fill these forms out. I don't know what the information's supposed to be, but whatever you're filling out today, you would just do the same thing here on this wizard, and you're selecting yes here. And what's going to ultimately happen is you're going to submit this, and then CalSTRS will review it, and then once it's approved, you'll get a message that is letting you know that it's been approved. Or if it gets denied, you'll get a message letting you know that it's been denied. And there's just a lot of clicking, right? A lot of clicking. And then you click next, and then you're certified that you're submitting the form, and this is all the details on what you've submitted, and then you just click finish. And what happens is it's been basically submitted to CalSTRS. This one here, it's submitted to CalSTRS for review, so you'll see what the status is here. But this will get rejected because down here we have various business rules. This member does not have 10 years of service credit because we just created them, so they're not eligible for RWP, right? So it'll likely get rejected. But this is how you would submit the application. Pretty straightforward once again. It's just like you're filling the form out. The most important thing is just knowing kind of where to go to do that, right? And so that's, if you do RWP, you'll do the employee change request. Now, we're going live September 25th. So this fiscal year, you'll just be doing the RWP via the form, right? But next year is probably because most employers are filling the RWP. They're already submitted prior to, September 25th. So you won't really have to worry about this year. But next fiscal year, you'll be doing it this way if you provide RWP. I talked about like you'd get a message, hey, we approved it or we rejected it. Um, there is this message board here. Um, some of you may get, I know the county probably does, where you'll get an email. It's like a generic email from counselor saying you have a message in the message board, or maybe this district has sent you a message in the message board or something like that. So anytime like a file is completed processing, for example, if you have that payroll role, you're probably going to get that email, and that's usually what it is. But you would get the message here in the message board. I could click search, and this when you click on this, for example, it's going to give you more information. Like, what is that actual message? When you get the email, it's going to be generic. You could always go to the message board here, and you could get the details about what that message is. So if you got an RWP rejected, you're going to get a message here in the message board. It'll tell you exactly why it got rejected. And you'll get an email alert saying you have a message in the message board. So that's kind of how that'll work if it gets approved or rejected. Okay. So we did enrollments, we did employee change request, sick leave termination. What I want to do now is I want to upload a file, and we'll look, I want to go through how the file processes, and then we'll look at the business rules. We're not going to see a ton of business rules because I created such a small file. It doesn't have real data on there. But we'll take a look at how that works. Essentially, it's going to be the same thing. There just may be more business rules. If you upload your file, it's going to have a lot more errors probably than we'll see here. Now, what we could do is we could click upload file, and we could click file type, in the pay period, right? You could also go here, and the job aid will walk you through the long way to get there, and that's file processing, and that is going to be upload file, and it'll take me to the same screen. So you'll select your file type. And when I'm looking at the file types here, I think the only file that you're probably uploading is the F496. So the other ones, I don't think necessarily you have to concern yourselves with. Unless you upload the match file. I know some districts in the state upload a match file at the district level, but I don't think anyone in Santa Clara County does. But anyway, the F496 is what you'll select, and then you'll select the pay period. And like I said earlier, you'll want to select the pay period that you consider current month records. I'm going to just select March. And then, similar thing, you browse on your computer to find the file. I created this test file here. And then, I do want to talk about this. Okay, so this is pretty important. In the current system, our system will accept any file type that contains the correct file within the file. So for example, if I uploaded an Excel file, but within the Excel file, the format was that fixed positional F496 format, our current system will accept that file. Okay. In this system here, it has to be a .txt extension. And I mention this because I'm pretty sure districts in Santa Clara County are generating, not all, I don't know if all of them are, and it could be maybe the offline districts, but some districts within the county are generating like .dat files or different file extensions. So if that's the case, you'll want to open that file and just save it as a TXT file. I usually just save it to Notepad as a TXT, and then you can upload it that way. But if you don't, it will stop right here. It'll just error out right here, and it'll say the file type's incorrect.
And that's correct, Nick. We tested it. Nia had
Okay.
me test it the other day. And
Okay,
we were
good.
like, why is this file not downloading? So the current way we download it doesn't give us an extension. So you, like Nick's saying, you have to add that .txt. Amarita and Nia and I looked at my test file and we discovered that. So for all districts reporting under SECOE need to make sure they add that.
I'll
Okay.
be sharing that at the end of the presentation on
Mhm.
how to download from personal downloader.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I save this as .txt, so we're good to go here. I upload it. Now, there are sort of three levels to how a file processes, and so I'll talk about what those three levels are. This is the first one. All it's checking for is that file extension. I click upload. I get that green check. So it passed that validation. That's, like I said, that's all it's looking for is that .txt. So once it's done this, the next place that you wouldn't normally go here, but I want to show you how it processes. The next place it processes is under file processing and processed files. Now I'll click there and I'm just going to click search. These are all the files that have been processed, but you could see we have some unprocessed files here. I'm just going to click search. These process pretty quickly. See, it's uploaded now. And if I click, let me click on this. I could press refresh and it'll take a minute to process. This record only has 10 lines on it. But so it should process pretty quickly. Now, our SLA for like our service level agreement for as far as like how long it'll take a file to process is it's 90 minutes, okay? But I want you to keep in mind that that's 90 minutes regardless of the size of the file. So you think about a county that has, 100, 200,000 lines, like that's only going to take 90 minutes. So your district file should be relatively quick. Some context as well is that like our current, see they process already, but our current SEW, it actually only has one server dedicated for file processing. Okay, so if you get stuck behind like a large county, you have to wait for that to process before your file will process, right? In this system, in our new system, we are going to have 3 dedicated servers for file processing. So you're just in a queue, and whichever one opens up next, if you're next in the queue, whichever one of the 3 servers opens up, your file will go there. So and in testing, it's super quick. So I don't know how long it takes your files to process today, but you should, looks like Don's happy about that. You should see a much quicker processing time. Okay. So this is already processed. You could see they're processed here. Some mistakes that counties, districts do is they upload their file and they go to this file processing and process files. And, if you think about it intuitively, that's what you would do, right? These are processed files. And then you'd come here and I would say, oh, here's my file. It's processed. Errors, there are no errors. I'm good, right? Well, that's not necessarily true. This area here, you would generally not need to go here. This is only processing integrity checks. Okay, so this is only processing for are the are the field positions correct? Is mainly the only thing it's looking for. One of the other things it's looking for is the only other thing I've seen is like a pay period begin date is greater than the pay period end date. That's the only one I've seen here, and that's an integrity check. That will stop the file at this level, and then you'd have to correct it on your file or in your system and re-upload. Okay, those are the only ones I've ever seen here. So what you'll normally do is you'll upload a file and then you wait 10 minutes maybe, and then you'll go to the payroll summary, and if it didn't create a payroll summary, then I would come back here and say, hey, what's going on? But normally you won't have to go here. This is just doing integrity checks. You're generating the file in the right format, so it really shouldn't error out here. As you can see, I did have a test file that did error out here, and you'll see kind of if it does, what'll happen is it'll say review, and then you could click review, and it has all these records. I'm just going to select one of the lines, and if I go down here, the report unit number didn't match the unit that I uploaded with. So that's kind of what's going on here. You shouldn't have that issue. I used a dummy test file from another county is why, and then I uploaded it and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to change the report unit. That's why I got the error here. But you shouldn't normally get an error at this level. I just wanted to let you know because if you upload a file and it doesn't create that payroll summary, then you're going to be like, okay, let me go check there and see if something happened. Normally, what you do, you upload the file, and it's these payroll summaries. Okay, this is that quick link that will take you to, we're calling them payroll summaries, but it's basically your active files tab today where it has all the files that you've uploaded and you can view the business rules. That's where you're going to want to go. You want to go to the payroll summary. So let's say I upload the file and then, I go fill up my water, I do whatever, do something else. Now let me go look at the business rules. 10 minutes later, you'll click on the payroll summary here and then click search. These are all the payroll summaries that were created based on file uploads. Okay. And we'll pull up these here in a moment. Once again, you can get there another way. You would go to, and once again, the job aid will actually walk you through this way. Excuse me, but it's employer reporting and employer reporting summary. And that will take you to the same page that we were on where I'm just going to click search, but this is the payroll summary screen. Now, what we're seeing here is a lot of files, right? So some districts have uploaded files here. Now I'm logged in as the county, right? So that's why I'm seeing all the files for districts within the county or maybe something the county uploaded. That's what we're seeing here as far as the payroll summaries. However, if a district uploads a file and then you come to the screen, you click search, you're only going to see either files that you have uploaded or files that the county has uploaded or submitted that contain records for your district. And then if you were to go into, let's say if I were to go into the file here that the county uploaded, and I'm logged in as Moreland, for example, I'm only going to see the records for Moreland within that file, even though this file maybe contains more districts, right? And that's kind of how that will work. But I'm logged in as the county. And this uploaded by column here is just that. It's indicating who uploaded this file. Or it looks like Moreland uploaded the file, one of these ones. So that district uploaded a file, and that's why it says uploaded by Moreland here in their report unit. And here's the file name. So, however you named your file, that name will be indicated here. And every file that is uploaded contains a payroll summary ID. And that's that hyperlink that you'll want to use to actually go into the details of the file. And we're going to go into the details of the dummy file that I had uploaded. It only has 10 records, but it should be able to, provide you with an idea of what it'll look like, right? So I'm going to want to click on this hyperlink for 386. This is the file I just uploaded, actually. And once I click on that, it's going to take me into the details of the file. And this is the payroll summary maintenance screen. This is where I could validate business rules and see what's going on here with the file. Now at the top here, it's just going to give me just high level information, like what is the reporting period, how many records are on it. High level information here. You could collapse these if you wanted. You could leave them open. The second panel here is going to, kind of let you know what the employee contributions were. What did you report? This is the sum of the employee contributions that were reported on the file. And here is what our system's calculating. Okay. And we see this huge variance here. That's totally explainable. It's basically due to missing enrollments because if you're reporting a member with contributions, but there's no enrollment record for that person, we're going to calculate a 0. And then once you do the enrollment, it recalculates with the contribution. So that's kind of why we're seeing this wide variance right here. We have a ton of missing enrollment records on this file. So you just get contribution totals summed up here. And right here are headers This section here, you could kind of get an idea of what it is. I'll explain a little bit more, but this is like an out of the box sort of functionality here. For county offices, this really probably doesn't really serve much of a purpose. Some maybe, but most because let's say you have 30 districts, you're likely going to have 60 headers. And what it's doing is it's breaking down the information that was reported on the file by benefit structure. So for example, if you're a district, you're going to have likely two headers. You'll have one for your 2% at 60 members. You'll have one for your 2% at 62. And if you wanted to view the information separately, maybe based on benefit structure for whatever reason, you could do that by clicking into one of these header hyperlinks here. It was an out-of-the-box functionality. We didn't really spend a whole lot of time doing a lot of design for this, so we just kept it, whatever. And you may find some value with it, but the main area that you'll likely go is right here in the employer payroll detail panel. And this is where you will see the details of the file. So this has review records. When I click on the by error tab, it'll tell me what sort of errors there are. And these are when you upload a file, you're going to see different errors. And what I want to do, actually, I'm going to X out of here and I'm going to go into another test file that I uploaded and made some changes to, so we see the different types of severities and stuff like that. So this is the file I just uploaded. I'm going to actually pull up the same file, but I actually made some changes to it. So we have some valid records here. So you'll likely see that a bulk of your records are going to be in valid status, and then you'll have some that are in review status. Now, I could click on the review link here, and it will list out all of the records that are in review status. Unfortunately, it won't tell me why they're in review status, so I wouldn't recommend trying to identify why they're in review by clicking here. I wouldn't do that. What you would want to do is go to this by error tab, and this will list out the message ID. It will tell you what the message is, like what the error is. It will have a severity, and then how many of those records did you have? Now, if you wanted to sort of click on the message ID hyperlink, for example, this is no employment record exists. If I click on this hyperlink, then yes, everything displaying here, these folks are missing enrollments. This is the message ID so I do know that all those folks are missing enrollments. Now, what you'll likely want to do when you're cleaning your file is, we have a F496 file specification. If you're looking for something like, how do I resolve this error type of thing? There are a couple ways you could do it, but I think the F496 file specification that we have here on the employer support portal is probably the best resource. It's the F496 file specification. This actually contains, let me just give you an example. Oh, sorry, we were here. We were here. Let's just say this one here. So 1278. So I could just do maybe Control F for 1278. This contains all of the business rules and the error resolutions, right? So I got this message right, 3030 1278. I should mention that all of the message IDs are going to begin with 3030. And then the last four digits will be unique for whatever the error is. I just searched, I just searched 1278. You could do 3030 1278. But if you do a Control F, you'll find the business rule, and the error resolution is also going to be on here. So this is a good resource if you're looking to see like what is the error resolution, what is the actual error, like the details of
It
the error.
says the meeting's being recorded, so if there's anything we missed, I mean, we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just having a day of just
doing
everything.
Okay. So yeah, so this F496 file specification would be a good resource because I know today, like in today's world, and I keep hitting the wrong tab, but in today's world, it's a little bit different where there is a all errors report that you download. It's a PDF, right? Most districts are using that PDF. Some use the CSV that we have. That PDF all errors report, it looks totally different. There's no PDF. It's an Excel report. I'll download it here in a little bit. But it will contain all the information you need. It's going to look a little messy, and I'll format it a little bit so you could see what it looks like. But it doesn't contain, like on that PDF now at the end, all the business rules that you encountered on your file upload. It actually lists those business rules like at the end of that document, I think. So you're going to want to use this F496 file specification if you're not familiar with an error and how to resolve the error. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with errors and you're like, oh, yeah, I know that one. I know how to resolve it. But maybe there's a new one that you're like, oh, what is that one? And you want to get more details on it. This one also has, that was not a good example because that's like a new business rule. But if you look at this document has that legacy error ID. So this rule here, employees not retired from STRS, this is the legacy error. So these are what you're used to, probably that MO-B025, for example. So this document also contains, like, if there was a legacy error, what was that legacy error? Which will kind of help you maybe put kind of two and two together on what the actual error is that you're encountering. So yeah, that's a good resource. Now, here just, this is just a few errors that I kind of created so we could see all the severities. And you could sort these however you want, but the severities are warning, information, and error. A warning is like an employer approvable edit today. So this is something that
Was this in use? There
the
isn't
record
a
may in
website?
fact
Yeah.
be a valid
Ooh.
record, right? It's nothing wrong with the record. You would probably provide some sort of a note, and then I think the county office now is probably putting that on there. And when the final file before it gets submitted, they're putting the annotations on there. But for this particular record, there could be a reason why, and you just say, yeah, no, it's good, and this is why, and everything's good to go there. So warnings, you don't necessarily, it's not like a record that you need to actually fix something with. Information it's just that. It's just kind of like an FYI. There's no action required on an information message. This particular one is a no match on last name, but there are several other information messages where it's just kind of giving you an FYI and just saying, hey, maybe our system says this, your line says this. I don't know which one's right, but it's not like super important that it needs to be fixed. The errors are the records that in fact do have to be fixed. Okay, so there's something wrong with that record where it needs to be fixed, and you're likely going to need to like fix it in payroll and then re-upload is essentially. I'm pretty sure that's probably how you get a file clean is you might upload a first version of the file and you encounter a certain amount of errors, and then you fix those errors in payroll and re-upload, and then it gets, until you clean it, is how most people do it. So that's what these errors are. Now, this particular one, let's just, I'm going to click the hyperlink so we can kind of see what a payroll detail record looks like. Um, I could click on the payroll detail ID. So there's a payroll summary ID, right? And that's the ID for the file. And then within that payroll summary, you have all the information for the whole file. There are also payroll header IDs. We talked about the payroll headers. That would contain all the information within a particular header. And then there are also like payroll detail IDs. Every single record is assigned a payroll detail ID. So that's kind of what this is. This line has been assigned this detail ID. But if I click on that hyperlink here, it's going to take me to the details of this record that's being reported. And we see, at the top, Santa Clara COE is the report source. And this is the report unit. This is the header ID that I talked about. This is for the 2% at 62 header. But you don't really need to concern yourselves with this. I'm just letting you know what it is. This is the detail. These are the details of the file. And we got an error saying this person's not retired. And why did we get that error? We got that error because it's being reported with assignment code 61. That's for post-retirement reporting, but they're not actually retired. So, this would be something you just change the assignment code and it would be fine. But that's kind of what's going on here. You could see there's no reported calculated because it's a non-member line right here. And then if in fact there were multiple records for the same person on the file, you would see those records here. So if, let's say, somebody's being reported, they have 10 records, you'd see all 10 records here. They'd have hyperlinks where you can toggle between the records if you wanted to. So you don't have to like X out and go find the other record. All the records for the same member would be here on this panel. And down here, if there are any errors for the payroll detail, they would display down here. And this errors they're not retired from STRS. Now you could click this view and view the instructions. When we go live, this will have sort of everything I showed you in the file specification. It's going to have the rule and what is the rule? What is the error resolution for that rule? Those will be populated here. Our team's going to populate those during cutover, but we're not doing that until then because essentially what happens is every time we do a database refresh, it wipes the data and it's for every message ID, it's just a lot to manually add in there. So we're not adding those in right now, but you will have, if you wanted to look at it there, you could see the error resolutions. Now, you would probably fix this in payroll, and then when you re-upload it the next time, it would have a different assignment code. But I could change it to sub and click save and validate. It's going to validate this record. And now it's valid and the error's gone. That's what the error was. And the F496 file specification would have told you that that's what the error was too. But let me go to an actual like error. Let's go to those enrollments. You're going to see these enrollments quite a bit. These right here, these are the ones where, like I said earlier, you could enroll these members, like I said, when they get hired, right? And you look and you see that they don't have an enrollment record, and do the enrollment right there. And so when you upload the file, you're probably not going to encounter a lot of those employment records don't exist errors. Okay. But let's say you don't do enrollments when you hire them and you upload this file. If these right here, what they are is it's the first record being reported for this person, whether they're new to CalSTRS or whether they're brand new to your district. Here, there's no client ID. We could see that these are all like new people. And this is because I created those dummy accounts, so they're all brand new. However, I did do some enrollments. So I want to kind of show you what that'll look like. I'm toggling between because I have the same file, but I did different things once it was uploaded. So you see these are all review. But if I go to the by error, and these are missing enrollment records, this isn't. Okay. So I wasn't able to show that. But if they existed in our system, but they were new to your district, you'd see the client ID right here. We're not seeing it now, but that would be your indicator to say that they already exist, but not with my district. I could still show you kind of like how you'd enroll during a file though. So enroll via a file upload. Let's go ahead and click on just any random person here. So we see these buttons here at the top. We have the save and validate. I actually use save and validate. You guys probably, you're not going to be doing on-screen changes. You're likely going to be changing in payroll. So you probably won't utilize that very much, but you might use the enroll member button. This will allow you to enroll the member right here, as opposed to having to go to that employment tab and putting in the transaction type and all of that stuff, right? You can actually enroll a member by just clicking this button up here. So what I want to do though is I want to look and just see kind of, I'm going to use 3/1 as a start date. You would have a better idea of what the actual start date is, but I'm going to use 3/1 here. But if I click enroll member, it's, all I have to do is select the member type, and I should have actually gone down here. See, I know that it's a member. I have contributions amounts here, and there's a member code here, so I'm going to enroll them as a member. I don't know what the code is. I'm going to use 11 just for testing purposes here. So you'll select the transaction type and then the employment start date, and I'm going to select 3/1. This is the same thing that we did earlier, but what is happening here is that they already exist, so they don't already exist. If they already existed, that's all I would have to do is transaction type, employment start, save, submit. They don't exist. However, there is quite a bit of information that was provided on the file, right? So the file contained their SSN. It had their name. It didn't have their date of birth and gender, so I have to add that. That's because they're brand new. But if, like I said, they existed in the system, it would already pull in this information and you wouldn't have to worry about typing this in. So it would be quite easy to enroll a member via a file upload. So I'm going to click save. Date of birth required. I thought I just clicked that. I guess I didn't click it. I need to click that. Okay. Save. And then it's going to run, the validations just like we did earlier. And everything was fine, right? There's no errors down here. So I'm going to click submit. And you could do these like in bulk also, not in bulk. You got to do them one by one, but I'll show you kind of a little trick on that. So now I'm just going to save and validate this record. I fudged some numbers here. So see, it's only 6123. So we have this variance error down here. It's saying, hey, we're calculating different contributions than you provided on the file is basically what this error is saying. And so I'm just going to update it now. But that's once again, some errors you might encounter where you need to make changes on your file or in payroll. And then I'm sure you guys make all those changes and then re-upload a new version of the file, essentially. But I wanted to show you how you kind of enroll a member through a file. Let me see. I think we had a question. Sorry if I'm not following completely, but will we get this error for all new hires or just if they haven't been fully enrolled in STRS for our district? You will only get this error if they have not been enrolled in STRS for your district. Yeah. Yeah. You will not get this for all new hires if they have that enrollment record. So if you already enrolled them and then you upload the file, you're not going to get these errors. Yeah. And there was another question, I think, about service credit balance. Anna, yeah, I think you emailed me today too. I'll talk about service credit balance. When does the express benefit report go live? The express benefit report is being retired at go live. So September 25th. If you're submitting data that you currently submit on the express benefit report on 9/25 and after is when you'll have to key it in. So on 9/25. And let me make sure I covered. I already answered the sick leave, right? Okay, cool. We're good. Yeah. So, oh yeah. But let's say you did get, these errors for the enrollments on the file. Yeah. When you hired them, you did the enrollment, you're not going to get these errors. But let's say you did, you could, and this applies for pretty much like any error that you want to look at, but you could select multiple here. And if I click open, you could see up here that they're open. These pages are opened behind each other, right? So I've opened like two of these detail records. So if I clicked enroll member and I, plugged in my transaction type and my effective date submitted, then I come back here and I X out, and then I have the other one right behind it where I can enroll this member. So you don't have to keep toggling back and forth. If you want to open several records at once, they'll just kind of open behind each other. And and this might be handy for the county office when they're suppressing warnings and things like that. But for districts, if you're doing enrollments through the file, that's one way where you could just open all of them and then just do them one, X out, do the other, if you wanted to do it that way. So I posted a dummy file, so we should have at least one transaction. See, this is a processed file that I processed here. I voided some records, but I did process some records. So there was a question about, well, Samantha has a question first. Hi, Nick. If a file uploaded by the county populated an error related to an employee not being enrolled, would a district be able to open the county file as you had suggested before and enroll their employee? Or would the district have to upload their own file? Yeah. So if a county uploads a file, you do not have, you only have read-only access to the folks at your district, if the county has uploaded a file. There are various options for the county that they may want to explore later on, but to keep it simple right now, yeah, it's only read-only. You would have to upload the file yourself, or you could just go to the employment tab to do it. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, there was a question about, I don't know if we'll be able to get a great kind of, to answer your question about service credit, it's not like today. There's no, like when you log into REAP, I think there's like a table that tells you what the service credit is. I think it even has year-to-date service credit. We we open an enhancement because that's viewable like on our internal system. We added an enhancement to provide that somewhere here. It's not readily available. And actually obtaining the service credit for a particular member is not like super easy to do. I mean, it's there, you could do it, but it's not super easy to do. So we actually added an enhancement to provide that like table somewhere on the employee maintenance screen. But that enhancement will not, it's not getting picked up for go live, for when we go live. So we're hoping we have uh, a couple, I call them maintenance releases. I know they changed the name of them, but they're basically, um, let's set the expectations now, right? When we go live, I mean, it won't be perfect. I think for anybody who's ever been involved in an IT project of this level probably understands that. But we'll have workarounds, we'll have resources for you guys to reach out to and things of that nature. But there are enhancements that we are going to like implement at these maintenance releases, and we're hoping to get that one like in one of these maintenance releases that we have scheduled. The first one's like 6 months after go live. So, but until then, no, service credit table is not available. I'll kind of show you the workaround for that, and you can obtain the information. It's just not ideal. But if we go into the um, yes, Lindsay, grace period for PNI. Yeah, we talked about that at the webinar. It's like it's currently you know what? I don't want to speak out of terms here. I'll pull up the slide because it's on the slide deck, but I think it's the July and August. Or no, I'm sorry, August and September, I think is what it is. It's like 2 months for P&I. I'm going to pull up the slide because when it gets into P&I, that's a little out of my realm. But yes, there is a grace period for P&I, and it's 2 months. And I'll pull up that slide so we can, it has the details on the slide, and I'll pull that up so we can see that. Okay, so let's go to a process record. So I actually submitted this file and these records processed. So if I pull up one of these records here, we could see that it has posted transactions. So you could go to the transactions tab here, and this is where I was talking about earlier, where you could filter. A lot of the filtering is the same. So it'll have the fiscal years that they worked. You could just search all, and you don't have to filter. But yeah, you could, if you want to consolidate it down, you're only looking for a certain pay range or pay period range, you could do that. But once you click apply filter, it's going to pull up whatever your range was. This particular member had two records that I posted, but you have the transactions are here. You could export to Excel. Well, download as Excel. And then you can, you could get rid of fields if you don't want, but this is just basically what was reported for reported for this payroll detail record, right? But you can see it has the service credit here. So you could obtain the information if you wanted. You'd basically want to extract. You would want to search for every single record, so you wouldn't put any search criteria in here. Essentially, you would just look for defined benefit, and you wouldn't put any search criteria. And if I applied filter, what this would do is it would create, or it would, excuse me, give you search results for every single record that has been reported for this member. And then if you export that to Excel, you could go to that service credit column. And then like if you did control, shift down or whatever, it'll go all the way down to every record. You would have to convert this to number. And then down here, you could see it would have the service credit. Yeah, not ideal, right? For sure, not ideal. But that is one way of obtaining the service credit right now, is just to export the transactions that have been reported, or the ones that we've converted, right? Because we're converting all detail records as well. And you can obtain the service credit that way. And the other way I think you could do is like down here, there's this account transactions by fiscal year. And if I were to load fiscal year, it's kind of weird, but it basically is, this was sort of an out of the box thing as well. But what it's doing here is it's loading information based on fiscal year, but you can see this is the same fiscal year, right? But since it has different assignment codes and different like pay rates, it has its own unique line. But let's say that they were a contract employee with assignment code 57 and their pay rate was the same, right? Let's say they were, a 12 pay, whatever. They had 12 months of the same pay rate and the same assignment code. This line would contain all of those records. But I guess my point here is that it has the service credit field here. So you could export this and then sum the service credit. This is probably the easier way to do it since it's not going to have so many records. It'll have way less records because it's combining a lot of records into one line here. So this might be the easier way to get your service credit by exporting this and then summing up the service credit column under the load transactions by fiscal year tab. So those are the two options right now until that enhancement is implemented. And kind of the little background on that, just so you guys kind of understand, is that when the system was developed, whoever was involved in the design process, because this was a while ago that was designed, they were like, well, like why is the service credit so important, I guess, to have the actual grid there. And what we found out later, actually, our team found out not that long ago, was that when a member goes to retire, we have our retirement readiness department, and they're kind of instructing teachers to go back to their districts to validate their service credits, correct? And they have the right amount of service credit, right? And so that's why districts are looking for service credit, because teachers are asking them about that. But I think that was an oversight where maybe people weren't communicating about that internally. And so we didn't put that information just like right there on the table like it is in REAP today. But we do have an enhancement to get that in there eventually. There is a workaround in the meantime. And you could always reach out to CalSTRS also. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of the background on that. Okay, so we had something.
Excuse me, Nick. So for members, are they going to still be logging in on their own? Is it going to be a different, are they going to this new system, or are they going to remain on the old system where they can access their service credit?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, so as part of this, the pension solution project as a whole, the member portal is also going to change. It's so this is kind of an encompassing thing. It's our internal system, it's the employer portal, and then the employee Mike Halster's website that they use today. Yeah, they should be able to self-serve for their service credit, right? And we always hope that they're looking at their retirement progress reports and things like that. But we know most of them aren't, or they're not logging in. I mean, my wife's a teacher. She's like, Mike Helsters. I was like, come on, you got to check out Mike Helsters. But yes, they will be able to see their service credit on there in Mike Helsters. Yeah. And we are changing their portal as well. Yeah. Okay. Trying to think. Um, I Are there any questions about I know I've went over a lot and it's being recorded and there are resources out there and I encourage folks to reach out to me as well, but are there any questions about anything that I've gone over? And I know this isn't the only time that you can ask questions, but I went over a lot, but are there any kind of burning questions out there or anything you want a clarification on or anything like that? Okay. Because I think I've gone over pretty much in anybody at the county. If there's anything else you want me to go over, please let me know. But we're really encouraging employers. I mean, for Santa Clara County to complete their success criteria, they need every district in their county to upload the files and make sure that they're comfortable with, oh, you know what? I do need to download the all errors report. They need to get comfortable with, how to get that file clean, right? A clean of errors. So Santa Clara can submit the file to us. Like it's very important because like there is a P&I grace period, but it's really not that long. And I'll pull up that slide too. I need to do that. So, that's this whole testing period. And, once we go live, um, we know a lot of folks are going to have questions, but this is the chance to I'm your resource. I could help you guys out along the way, so you guys can get yourself ready, just to make sure that you're confident, like that when we go live, that you'll be able to do what you need to do, right? And we're tracking success criteria on our team. We have like this big whiteboard, and part of that for Santa Clara County includes, like I said, all their districts uploading files, making sure that they do what they need to do, so the county can do what they need to do. Um,
Um, excuse me. Nancy, you have a question?
yeah.
Yeah, yes, I do.
It's all hand up, but I was blocked here. Hey, Nancy, how's it going?
Good. A long time no talk, no
Yeah, it's
see.
been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's all I have been trained for years ago. It's all gone.
Right.
I gave them all back.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that I'm from payroll,
Yeah.
and then we care about the files being submitted, right? So
Yeah.
or the match file, we do match file
Oh,
as
you do
well.
match file. Yeah.
Yes. So I want to be sure my team does that.
Okay.
But I'm just a little worried on the other end, right? The enrollment, the termination,
Oh,
etc.
okay.
I'm not sure. I think I saw Nancy Cortez in here, but not a whole lot of them are in this training. Of course, this is being recorded. And
Yeah.
will there be another opportunity, or are you willing to do an one-on-one to Foothill De Anza district?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I emailed you guys, and you guys report cash balance directly to CalSTRS, right?
Correct.
Yeah. If that's the case with one-on-one with report sources like yourself, yeah, we can do that. For
But
the other
for DB, we do not.
No, but for cash balance, you do. Enrollments apply to cash balance as well.
Mm.
Plus, you directly need to complete success criteria for cash balance for yourself. And then for DB, you need to do what you need to do for Santa Clara County. You should
Yeah.
reach out to me.
Okay. And let me gather our HR team so
Okay.
then we'll have something coordinated to
Okay.
come to the door ready.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what did we have here? Oh, Nancy Cortez. Okay. And Nancy, you're with Foothill DMs, all right?
Yes, I
I'll-
am.
okay. I can't do that now. I don't want to hop into like other people's and maybe look at data that we shouldn't be looking at.
Right.
I will unlock you after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Will I get a notification via email or something like that?
You will. You should get a one-time password.
Okay,
I'm just writing a note here. I don't have a. I have to write it on my phone. I don't have a notepad with me.
thank you.
Nancy Cortez. You're welcome. Dianza. Okay. Too early to talk about download penalty report, right? Download penalty report. Um,
So
yeah.
that's that P&I report that we can look at once it
Oh,
generates so that we can
yeah.
see who's getting the penalties and which employees.
Oh, that's going to be in the contribution account portal. Yeah, I can't do that right now. Yeah, that'll be in the contribution account portal. Will we reset? We will reset. Oh, awesome. Cool. So you'll handle the reset. Sweet. Okay, great. Now, yeah, so I talked about the all errors report. You guys are probably using that PDF now, I think. Most people are. So I'm assuming, but you might use the CSV. Here, it is the download error details. Now, hopefully you don't freak out when I open this. It doesn't look pretty. There's a little formatting involved. We do have a job aid for the formatting, but let me just download it so we could look at it. And I did click download. It doesn't really alert you that it's downloading. We are going to get an enhancement where it has that little, the progress clock. But anyway, it might take depending on how many errors are on the file, it might take a little longer to download than this one did, but it just downloaded right here. So you'll click on that to open it. So what's going on here is or I have my computer set up with a common delimiter, which most of you probably do as well. I actually changed it for just so we could demo this. But what you'll need to do is you'll need to do like the text to columns here. And you could highlight column A. And then you should be able to do the text to columns. Yeah, most of you probably know how to do text to columns. But like I said, if you don't, we have a job aid that we created that will walk you through how to do text to columns. But you basically highlight the first column A and you click next. And then down here in the other field is where you put the tilde because we use a tilde delimiter and that's why it's all scrunched together. So when I click the tilde and then I could just click next and finish, and then it'll open it up in columns. Now we have it in columns. It still has a ton of information. And so like, you know, this was created for new file format and old file format. Okay, new file format stuff is like at the beginning here. So what I generally do is I delete like most of the stuff here. Like I just want to just give you an example of the information that you really need, right? Is like the SSN client ID, what's the error, right? And then over here is the information that you reported on the file, essentially, pay rate. I probably deleted some other stuff like what was the reported amounts and things like that. But that was probably not the best way of formatting it, and every district might want to format it differently because they need different information. But it does contain all the information. It's not as pretty as that PDF spreadsheet. Some people like this better because they could either create pivot tables or they could divvy up work based on various things, and it's in Excel, so you could manipulate the format. Others prefer the PDF, but this is the report that that was developed and that you'll have to use if you use the report today. See, I deleted a bunch of stuff here, like what was the earnings, and I did delete a bunch of stuff. All the information is on here, including other information. So I encourage you guys to just, explore the report and see what works best for you guys. For folks that I've worked with that have tested this out quite a bit, there was a little bit of a learning curve, but they figured it out pretty well, and it serves their purposes. But I know at first it looks a little intimidating because everything's scrunched together, and then there's like, 1,000 columns, but requires a little bit of formatting, but it should have all the information that you need. We usually print out a file detail report and file summary report after we process the file in the current system. Will we be able to do that in the new system, or is there a different report we can save that shows a summary of the files uploaded? Yeah, there is no report that there's no report that's similar to that, Tiffany. I'm assuming like once you let me see. The file detail report. Okay, does the file detail report contain like every record that was on the file or?
No, it just shows if anything kind of errored out
Okay,
in it and kind of just lets the county know that it's a
I
clean
see.
file.
I see. Okay. No, unfortunately not. And I know the county, we were talking about that. I'm not sure kind of what that'll look like, but once the file's clean, if you go to this my by status here, everything will be valid here. But there's no like you can't like export that to say, hey, everything's valid on this particular file. Um, Now we do have the download process file. But that's not what you're looking for. That basically includes all the details on the actual file that was uploaded. But yeah, there's nothing like that that you would download. So yeah, Santa Clara will probably have to think of a different way to say for you to indicate to them that the file is clear of errors. Okay. Um,
Nick, there's a question in the Q&A section. It
I
said,
saw that. Yeah. Can you go over where the sick leave balance reporting area is? Sick leave balance. Um, well, I submitted a sick leave. Well, I didn't submit it because I got that error, right? Um, the where the sick leave balance reporting area is. So if you're referring to where once it's been reported where you could see it, I could show you that. If that's not what you're looking for, just throw something in the chat to clarify, and I'll try to clarify my answer. But let's just pull up a member real quick. And we do have something in the chat. EBR. Oh yeah, I understand. I right. So the EBR form's going away. I walked through the sick leave transaction type. So I could do that again. I could show you again the fields, but that's where you'd provide the sick leave information. Um, and let me just show you two things. If there's a follow-up, just let me know. So let's just pull up a member, okay? Um, any random member will be just fine because we're not going to see the information, but you'll see where it's at. So if you go here, there's the sick leave information tab. If sick leave information has been reported, you will see the details of that information here on the sick leave information tab. That's where you'll see the details if it's been reported. Okay. Um, but yeah, on the EBR, I mean, if you're going to submit like today you submit the express benefit report and you know what the full-time base days are, right? You know what the sick leave balance is. Of course, CalSTRS had no idea. That's why you're giving it to us. When you submit the transaction, um, right here, I mean, this is where you're going to tell us how many unused sick leave days you're reporting, um, right here. And then, of course, the full-time base days. And then you just save and submit. And then once you submit it, it'll post to that tab that I just was at, where I just showed you. But yeah, you provide this information, I'm sure, exactly like this on the Express Benefit Report. Don't have a copy in front of me, but I know it says, what are your full-time base days? How many unused sick leave days? And you're just going to populate them here and submit it is how you'll do that. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, please let me know. I could, maybe I'm just not understanding it. But yeah, that's how that will work. Okay. Um, yeah, oh, let me pull up the P&I slide because um I think it was on our March webinar. This is the COE webinar I think we did. P&I. Okay, so yeah, penalty type 1, late reports are going to be waived for July and August pay periods. Penalty type 2, late adjustments will be waived for July and August. But the penalty type 3 and 4 they're not going to be expected to be affected. So these ones shouldn't apply at all. But penalty type 1 and 2 for July and August. That's how it currently stands. That's how it currently stands. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I know I went over a lot of stuff. And I don't know if there's any other questions, anything else that you'd like me to show you. If there were, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to. Um, but I think I covered the essentials. We have another question here. Thank you for that. Oh, you're welcome, Tiffany. Yeah, awesome. Great. Okay. Oh, Tiffany has her hand raised.
Yeah, so one of the things we encountered, we did our testing. So we work with multiple charter schools.
Yeah, right.
So we're uploading all the test files for them all.
Okay.
Had a couple databases where when we did the enrollment, we hit save, we hit submit, and the system didn't um, process it. So we had to go and enroll again.
Hmm.
And it still didn't process it. So then I logged out and logged back in, and then the enrollment was there. So I'm noticing some glitchy things with enrollment in a couple of our databases.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just was wondering if that had happened, if you
Yeah.
any of that.
Right. You saw it. It was almost like smooth sailing today, right? Like I did say
Yeah.
it, admit it, yeah. No, I mean, I've experienced some quirky things as well. I'm in here quite a lot, and I've definitely heard things like that. So that's a great question because for the folks that are on the line right now, there are some like, maybe when you click a link and it'll maybe give you an error, but if you X out and you click the link again, like you get in, or it's similar like to the enrollments that Tiffany was referring to. Um, this isn't a production environment. It's not a production environment. So, like we've talked to developers about these glitches and we've tried to recreate in the actual production environment that we haven't like gone live with, but we have the actual production environment and that environment behaves significantly with significantly less glitches than this one does. This one doesn't have a ton of it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes like what Tiffany said, you're going to, maybe something weird like that happens. Now, if it does, you could always reach out so we could see like, is there actually an issue here? But most of the time it's not an issue. It's just a little like a little glitch. Sometimes logging out, logging back in, like the whole timeout thing is kind of weird because you should have a 30-minute timeout period. But if I sit here and do nothing for like 10 or 15 minutes and then I try to go to a page, I'm probably going to get like timed out. Um, but when we go live, the timeout period will be 30 minutes of inactivity, not necessarily what it's reflected in this database. Let's see here. Can you possibly send the link to the login to the new SEW? Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, I could do that. I don't know. I don't have the contacts for everyone though, so it'd be kind of hard for me to do that. But with the county, I could just follow up with the link to the ESP and the ERE, I think would be good. Because having access to this, I mean, this is a good resource, this employer support.calstrs.com to actually at least maybe have this saved in your favorites. And the link's just here on the right. But the link to this environment is just ere.calstrs.com. But I could send this information to the county and then they could forward it to their contacts. I think would probably be the best way to go. And here we go. Um,
Nick, can you talk a little bit about the buybacks as well, since we have independents on the line?
yes. Okay, let me talk about the buybacks. Okay. So actually, you know what? We had a slide at the webinar. So I think it was the most recent webinar. I think. Let me try to find the slide here real quick. Oh, account receivable. Okay. Okay, account receivable. I'll just talk about the slide. So I know there are some districts on the line. I think there's a couple that submit the buybacks, service credit buybacks directly to CalSTRS today in today's system, right? You submit them directly to CalSTRS. In the new system, and you probably send the money to CalSTRS as well. But in the new system, the county has to submit the service credit buybacks for all the districts within their county that do service credit buybacks. The county has to submit the money and the file, the transaction, right? So a lot of you are using, or at least the ones I know, are using the employer application suite or that Fox Pro. That some of the districts are actually just, creating their file themselves and they're uploading it to SEW and they're probably sending the money to CalSTRS. In the new system, excuse me, the service credit buybacks have to all come through the county. So that includes the money, that includes the details on the file. I know the county, you probably submit stuff also, but now the county is going to have to submit for those districts that are doing it themselves today. So that's quite a change. So you're going to want to keep that in mind, and that's effective when we go live. And in fact, the deadline to submit an account receivable buyback file via, like using the Fox Pro. So for those districts that are submitting them today, directly to CalSTRS, the deadline for you to submit those in SEW using the Fox Pro program, including the file and including the money, the deadline is August 27th. After August 27th, the county is going to have to be the one that submits the buybacks for those districts that are submitting them themselves. So that's quite a change. Yeah.
I also have a question, Nick.
Sure.
It's currently the district is downloading the enhancement invoice for excess sick leave and make the payment directly to STR. So that is still the same?
Yeah, I'm sure they're downloading that in the contribution account portal, right? That process will be the same. Yeah. It's just submitting the data to us that is changing, where it's not the form, it's electronically, but wherever they, download the invoice and all that stuff, that's not changing.
Then they still send the money directly to STR that way. It not go to the county, right?
For the like excess sick leave?
Yeah, for the excess sick leave.
Right, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Yeah, a lot of information. Okay, so hopefully we're clear on that. Okay, yeah, and I was just kind of like skimming through this. This was the slide. These are the slides that we had in our district webinar, and yeah, I would encourage you folks, like I said, there are a ton of like Q&As here from our district webinars. If you wanted to check those out, I'd encourage if you have the time. It's just this April webinar here. Okay, yeah. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Anything else you'd like to see?
I have a question.
Okay.
Nick,
Okay. Yeah.
since we're talking about excess sick leave, that kind of triggers my memory of what happens in September, October, where
Yeah.
the money is being refunded to us. That's still the same, right?
Um,
Or that's I think I kind of remember that's gonna go away sometime.
yeah, I think that's going. Don't hold me to this, okay? I do know it's going away, but
Mm,
I believe it's still a thing now. I think it's
mm,
that AB 1997 legislation, that
mm.
credible compensation simplification legislation that takes effect July of 27, I think, 2027. I
Mm.
believe that that's the case. But yeah, that's when it's changing, is my understanding. Yeah. Karen?
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
I was wondering, is our county going to show us or tell us how we're supposed to submit those buybacks? Our district has a couple of them, and currently we send that, like you had mentioned earlier, we send the payment directly to CalSTRS and submit the file. So I didn't know,
Yeah, so
I don't know how else to do that.
well, the money is going to have to come through the county, so you'll have to send the money
Right.
to the county as opposed to CalSTRS.
Okay, so county people, are you going to like give
Karen,
us direction on how to do that, or?
yes, Karen, we will
Yes.
send out the procedure and kind of like the instruction for you to do that every month.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just need to know what to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. That's good. All right. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Yeah, so I'll pass it back to the county if that's okay. I'm obviously can still hang out in case anybody has questions, but
Nick, once again, thank you for joining us today and providing this valuable information. We truly appreciate your help.
You're welcome. Glad to do it.
Thank you. I just want to quickly talk about on the current there was a announcement about a STRS webinar, which is happening on June 26th, 2025 at 9 a.m. It's going to be a system demo on how to submit sick leave. I know Nick went over this stuff already, but if you're interested